Saturday, October 30th, 2021. The weather pattern for today it is overcast. It has puckering inside the skyline of clouds. But it's not a steady rain, it's more of like a drizzle. I was watching on the television. I just turned it on. It was on some station that Linda had. I don't know the name of the movie, but it had some reference. It's a character in my teenagehood of calendar and reference. There was a man they referenced as Mr. Bean, B-E-A-N. They also put him with some British-looking flag back then. And he was, I don't know, do you say political satire? Do you say comedian? I don't know. Because in Druidic, co-medic means co-medic, meaning like you have a company medic, like it's an agreed upon. But then that gets hard to tell when political satire and saboteur and sabotage comes in. So anyway, in this movie, totally unrelated, but the man, the saboteur, let's call him Mr. Bean, they refer to him as Mr. English. And he was in some movie. They did not have flag. They did have a table. They had something referenced, which I hear on the actual current event news media that they let into my New York, or my Bayside station, in my panic and safe room, kind of, sort of, but not really. They allow in current events, they say something about the people of the world are working on climate change, but they don't say what that's about. They say there's some kind of G, but the G has different numbers. There's a G8, there's a G12, but I don't know what that is or who that references, since evil children from everywhere seem to be in New York watching the same news program as myself, and they're able to contact networks back where they originated on the Rapoggle while I'm stuck here. So it makes broad communication projects almost self-defecating, where you only hear yourself speak and then you get mad about everything. But in this one movie, for reference, let's go back to this. There's a man by the name of Jason, and he was the evil technology whatever at this G something or other. I cannot verify, confirm, or deny whether my evil Jason, being the one that looks like Michael Myers in the Goldfinger petting the cat with the red phone. I can't verify if he ever made it to a G anything. While I'm in this situation, I'm the one who carried the immaculate child, being Alexander James, with the 5. For the 505 IET, since I wear the 22 shoes, a Cinderella, and whatever on U5. So there is a handsome man by the name of Eric who wore this color and a very thick, I say it's Irish, but they were referencing Scotland, because here they have the labels of Irish on the real wool that's like a cream color. So anyway, so they were wearing that, and then this type of, I call this a PEACOAT, P-E-A-C-O-A-T. This particular one that I have that I walk around in, this one is made by Kate Hill. Look at that, it's Cat. Cat and the Hill. Oh my gosh, those are references of importance. But this movie, with this Bean character, I'll try to find the name of it. it had something to do with, but I believe it's more political satire than anything. It has the coat. A man. It's not a woman's coat. It's a man's coat, and I wear a man's coat purposely at Provost and Providential. It's the man that I am desperately in need of at the end of the pool, or the one that walks around with the chalk, because that's who I'm deficient of. So, let's think about this. While I am traversing a topiary labyrinth over here under this whatever that I was born within, so you know how to locate me, in helpful relatives on some form of global mastery of, I don't know. I have to think about this. So, Eric, I think it was Eric. I can't remember his name. I want to say it was Eric, but maybe it wasn't Eric. Whatever his name was, that was, I think, eHarmony is what he said. He drove a Jeep, Jeep. He had long hair. It was very handsome in the face, but like deficient, devoid of personality. For this one piece, I just remember being very confused by his, like, I'm like, so I got into the car, he saw who I was, and then he told me that he liked me, but he couldn't see me, and that whole thing was confusing. So, but he wore this cable knit Irish or Scottish, whatever, sweater that they referenced in this movie, but his name was definitely not Jason. And that is a current event that actually took place over by where the Ronkonkoma Library was, where I used to take Alexander. I took him to two places. I took him to Ronkonkoma Public Library, which is PEACOAT Public Library, and I also took him to St. John's. It starts with an N, Num something or other, which was some form of a church which had a free play group for moms that were home during the day, in the church basement. And I would take Alexander there in a closed private group setting so I could watch him interact with the other children. Almost like I do now with Anthony, but now it's an open, like, park. It's a security nightmare, honestly. But Alexander was a different. He was the first immaculate. For one purpose at Y2K and Celestial Equinox. I have to think about this. So I don't know, and I kept saying, I even said to the little one, the Mayan calendar baby, who was sitting next to me, I said to him, I said, I don't know. Like, this movie makes me very uncomfortable. I was like, I don't know what they're trying to reference with this, because I mean, again, I'm not explaining to the little one that I don't watch. I mean, he knows I don't watch TV. I don't have to reinstate the obvious to the cast and crew that genetically appeared in my proximity while I'm inoculated into some test tube resting on some open-faced auger with some microbiotic flora that I can't even vet. No idea how they got here, no idea why they're here, no idea why they keep changing, no idea who's running them or instructing them. No idea. What I can say is that while I'm here, my barometric pressure is off. If you think of the body with the two light features and then the two light features and then the three balls of energy, which equals 7 on vertical horizon, I am having the biggest, sometimes I have a problem between the 3 and the 4, and then sometimes somewhere around 5, 6, 7, there is a problem right now with you hold on to some form of lining while you're cooked for 30 days, and then you shed the lining, and then you have a medical advancement to update and record what's going on in this biological nightmare and calendar system, with the weather being at microwave cooking stage. So I can confirm that the shedding of that 30-day lining smells rancid, like it was cooked before it was shed, just furthering the confirmation of the disgusting health arrangement that New York prepared for this section of my whatever, for reasons I don't know. I'm gonna pause actually here. I'll write it well so that nobody disputes this. Alright, there's the cloud with the sun. And then there's the airspace in between. And then there is the grid underneath that's forcing upwards on a multiple. This section here, I can feel is affecting the 7 balls of energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's affecting the bottom 3 because as I walk, the leg portion and this portion is the barometric pressure is off. So there is actually a negative, I was thinking about this morning, I'm like, this is a twofold. There's negative amortization and a compounding interest inside of the living system, being Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, the state of New York, and some outer greater area they label the United States of America. There's a negative amortization against whatever I am, and then there's compounding interest, making it more dangerous, and we'll call that the Fed at the moment. So, because there's been employee changes, and it's a scary dynamic at the moment for myself, being locked away in this hole. Secondly, on a health ministry standpoint, the arterioles and venals inside of my leg cavity, when the blood gets pumped out of the venal and up in a negative against gravity type of a system, the resting pressure of the venal and arterioles are in a negative compression state. Not to the sense that they're leaking backwards. They might. I can't verify. I don't have that kind of equipment. But I don't show signs of long-term leakage in that compression state. It's more of a tension wire, and an inverse collapse so severe where it almost becomes like a suction device. And then the timing of the strike of the blood going in and out, because that has its own rhythm, is not in melodic, like a tuned instrument. It's not tuning and going on a set strike rhythm. It's becoming negatively amortized where it's you could do defecating, where it collapses within itself. And then it almost is like twice the amount of effort to unstick that pressure in barometrics to release and so it throws and fluctuates the natural rhythm and timing of the biology as I'm walking through this weather pattern of whatever it is. Today it's this, but I mean, you can see by the photon lights outside. It's a microwave at this point, and it's that light they say is coming from here. This light affects what's between the clouds or the sky dome. If I do the sky dome, because I don't always see the circle, but I always see the dome. And the dome casts off a light of its own. It's not just a circle, but the light is all around and cast down. And then this form of lighting is affecting the balls of light in the center that then communicate with whatever is in my sealed test tube that I've been inoculated into. Sometimes, I mean, like they say things like the incarnate, like I'm incarnate. I'm in a figurine. I'm in a temple mount. I'm in my crown. Right. Okay. Well, my crown almost came out into a barn-like nativity setting. I think they put that in the Bible, where it's a manger, and you don't want her to stay in this mangy manger type situation. It's not healthy for, she's got bigger things to do in the world. Right, got that. Well, that's where I arrived. I didn't arrive with a big, pointy, beautiful, shiny crown with jewels and stuff. Never happened. I arrived, they told you in the Bible, into a manger situation. There's some political satire that goes on in that story, according to some. Some live by it to the book, to the T. But that sets up the lifestyle that I was born to inside of this dangerous, sunny, I'm in Bayside, but the sun is dangerous at the moment because it's affecting the biology's lighting system, which is affecting the barometric pressure of the ability to move healthily through the system. And it's also dangerous because I have some form of seismic rhythm coming up simultaneously with some chemical involvement and whatnot due to outside. So here's the thing. I'm like, okay, so I'm inside this one pool in a high school. I thought I was at Cold Spring Harbor High School. I thought I got on a bus and they drove me to Huntington High School. I thought that was the story because that's the closest high school that there was. And the closest Catholic school was St. Anthony's. Go figure. So I got on this bus and I went to this pool. So we were at Huntington High School as far as I knew. But then there's some great beyond high school that the coach at the pool was fortunate enough to be able to communicate with coaches from the great beyond of Huntington. If Huntington was where the pool was, that Mr. Frank and his 7th grade girls swim team in their respectable Speedos, we're not talking Sports Illustrated, we're talking Speedo, respectable 7th grade girls swim team. And we would do drills. So if that was the respectable place where the one respectable coach I ever met on the side of the pool was, and he had great beyond coaches that he was able to communicate with, wonderful. I don't know what happened. They went to a wiffle ball tournament as far as I know, and I haven't seen them since. Just saying. But this is what I'm experiencing in my one swim lane while you were gone. You know, there was one other thing. And today's October 30th, Saturday, October 30th, 2021. I'm in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. I have to pause this for a second because I have to gather my thoughts on one other thing that I had to speak on, and then it eluded me. And to try to define in the local area when I walk on the regular street, just for what I can visually recon and see, there's a fire department, there's a police department, but to me there's some kind of shadow organization because I don't really know anything about them or their people that organize within them, that are also residents of the local area. And then there are these two other facilities I tend to forget about called the state police, because I don't know if they've been run out of town or if police is like a business or a law group or how that works. But because I'm in a Bayside station, I'm fortunate enough to have these wonderful police looking gentlemen with police on the side of their whatever, called the Metro Transit Authority, MTA. And their state, I believe one of them had mentioned they were state, but they're not allowed to get involved in anything unless it affects the railroad. So that's Long Island Railroad. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, well, I'm glad to have you here. And then sometimes there's, I don't know, do the men on the horses, are they still called the constables? Or is that like Little House on the Prairie, like A Hope and a Dream away, like in a different era completely? Because I'm in this dystopian, I learned that word from my son Ben. I'm in dystopia at the moment. It's really nightmarish and hellish. But that goes back to like Helen of Troy. I didn't study the great arts. I wasn't afforded that type of education. However, somehow, in the threading of whatever, Helen of Troy came through that, and I did not watch a movie version of it, that she was like the most beautiful and the most fought over, sought after, whatever. That was one. But then there's Hela and Ragnar, and there's Ragnarok, which is the end of times, or the end of days, or the end of, I'm hoping it's the end of dystopian everything, and go back to like the Helen of Troy, like where she was actually Greek and Hellenistic and a beautiful creature, because currently I'm feeling more like this is bestiality and dystopia, and I don't know how to get myself into a healthy rhythm and rhyme pattern when the outside weather pattern that I have no way of reporting on or communicating with somebody who works in the pool department for my specific one lane, I don't know how to communicate with them. I'm surrounded by shadow corps and shadow law groups, I suppose you could call them. Star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza.